We're going to go ahead and get started. We have quite a bit to get through, and then I know I always like to leave some time at the end for Q&A. Let me minimize my screen here. Okay. All right. So my name is Lori Pogue, and I am the Associate Comms Manager for the National Collaborative for Infants and Toddlers. And some of you also know me from Voices for Healthy Kids with AHA. I primarily run all of our social media accounts. At the end, we will have a slide that has all of our social media accounts on it. So if you aren't following us and you would like to, that's a great opportunity for you to connect with us on our social media platforms. And I will follow you back from all of our platforms as well. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, whichever one you call it, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Pinterest. Did I forget one? I think I got all of them. But I'm so happy to be back with everyone today, doing this training again. We did the geotargeting training in the fall, and it was such a success, and we had several people ask for it again. So if this is your first time on the training, welcome. And if this is your second time, welcome back. But I've been with the NCIT for almost 4 years, and social media is my thing. And, I love helping our partners and our, other different community organizations, advocates, parents, all of that engage with us on social media and also learn how they can do the same for their organization. So we'll dive in and get started. We do have someone monitoring the chat, but we will have a moment for question and answer at the end. Let's go. All right, geotargeting for social media 101. So as far as our session objectives for today, by the end of this session, you will be able to understand what geotargeting is and how it works. You will learn why it matters for advocacy and engagement. And then you'll be able to explore how to use it effectively across key platforms. Next slide. All right, so let's dive right in. What is geotargeting? So, just by definition, you are targeting content to users based on their geographic location. How it works, it uses IP addresses, GPS, or other profile data on your followers or your contact social media profiles. It boosts engagement, conversion rates, and cost efficiency in digital marketing because you're able to target in to your audience. Where it's used on Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat. And other places as well, but for social media, those are the more prevalent places that you will see it being used. Why it's used. Embracing geotargeting empowers organizations to deliver relevant location-specific content and stay competitive. So, this is what it is, and we're going to kind of talk you through some good situations on when you can use it and when you can't. All right, next slide, please. All right, so let's get into some numbers here. Approximately 84% of consumers take action based on location-based marketing messages. I had the opportunity to take my kids down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina last week, and of course, looking to kill some time and scroll on my phone. And when I pull it out, I start getting things to do in the Myrtle Beach area. And I'm like, well, somebody is really doing some effective geotargeting because they know I'm here and they're using my location to send me all types of things for me and my kids to get into. Location-based audiences can achieve a 7.5% average click-through rate versus a 0.9% for average Facebook ads. So just simply put, like I mentioned, I was more likely to click on that ad because of where I was and how I was looking for some fun things for my kids to do versus let's say, the water park that was, sending advertisements to my phone decided not to use geotargeting. They would just have to hope that I would stumble across their Facebook page. So it is very effective. Geotargeting campaigns in one industry study drove up to 30% higher conversion rates compared to non-targeted campaigns. So when you are using geo-targeting, you have a 30% greater chance of getting someone to click on your post or your ad and follow through to your website. Next slide, please. All right, so why should you use geo-targeting? So the first thing is, let's talk about relevance. You are able to tailor messages to your local audience. If there's a campaign that you have that you're working on for your area, and it is specifically for people in a certain area or a certain county, you know that you are hitting your target audience and it's something that's relevant. As far as efficiency goes, you're able to reach the right people and reduce wasted ad spend. You are able to make the most of your money and target the people who really need your services or your resources. Engagement, localized content feels personal and it feels relatable. If there is, a water crisis that is happening in another town and it doesn't affect me, I'm less likely to take action on something versus, if there's something going on in my area. So you are able to get greater engagement because it's something, it's a bill that you need passed in your state. So you want to localize your information and your content as much as possible. Advocacy impact. Mobilize communities with regional calls to action. Again, same thing. If there is some information that you need to get out about a certain bill that could possibly get passed in your area, or some action that you are needing your advocates to take, it is easier to get them to take that action if you can send things directly to them and hit your target audience. Next slide, please. All right, so how geotargeting helps you. So, as far as like examples go, if you are trying to promote a local rally or an event, if you're needing to drive petition signatures in key states, if you are sharing region specific policy updates, this is something where you might want to take advantage of geo-targeting. And then as far as looking at your metrics, and that's just a fancy word for how well your posts are doing on social media. But you are having, you can look at your engagement rate by the area. You can actually pull it up on a map and see how effective you are. This morning I was looking at some numbers we did a campaign during the month of May, our May All Babies Thrive campaign. And I was even able to look and see, even though it's something that we run nationwide, but for some reason we get much greater engagement, in certain states than others, or with certain age demographics than others. So it's all about conversion. It's also all about, having that good call to action, and, you're really wanting to look at, okay, if we're doing good in this location and in this area, we know our efforts are not in vain. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about best practices when it comes to geo-targeting. So here's some good examples. So for the first one here, you want to use clear local language and references. An example of this is Atlanta leaders are expanding childcare access so every family can thrive. So, this is super specific. If you're posting this or you're running this, it is for the Atlanta area and surrounding areas. So, think about your messaging and as it relates to how it could be used in geotargeting. The next one here, you can include visual or location cues, landmarks, or state icons. You can post a photo of the city skyline or use a state-shaped icon in your graphic. One thing I always think about, again, I'm here in North Carolina, our North Carolina State Fair. It always has an image of the shape of our state and all of the promotional materials that they use. So, not to get it confused with any other fair, but this is the North Carolina State Fair. So, you want to be intentional and include, if there's a picture of the Capitol building for your state that you want to put on a graphic that you might be using in GeoTarget to talk about, um, you know, some advocacy efforts, or if there is a march that they're doing that day, you want to be sure to include those items because we are very much visual and we identify with landmarks and buildings and you know different backgrounds that we are familiar with. So that's important to use and to think about in your advertising and promotions and for your campaigns. The next one, you want to test and optimize performance by region. One of the cool things that Meta allows you to do is to run two different versions of your ad. That way you can see, if post A or post B performed better. So as far as this example goes, if you're working on a post about paid family leave, and you had one ad where you're using a family photo in the ad and maybe another one using a national statistic to see which one is going to perform better. Now, we have another training coming up this fall where we talk about imagery that you use, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you that post that you use that has the picture of the family is going to run circles around the post that you use that just has a statistic or a number in it, because people are emotional and they like to see, they are led by emotion, led to act by emotion, so they like to see faces because they feel like that is a good reason to have a call to action for them. So, that's something to keep in mind too. Are you using graphics that are going to be visible to the people that you want to um, impact? So, yeah. Okay, the next one, track what works and adjust over time. So, again, when you are thinking of your creative, if you are doing a video, think about maybe we could do a voiceover with a kid's voice or a woman's voice. Maybe if you're working on something for pregnant women or moms, it might be good to do that. Or, if you're targeting dads and you want to use a man's voice up there, but just, think about what your overall goal is, and again, the call to action that you want your followers and the people who engage with you on social media to take, and then make it a part of your strategy. The next one, align content with your local priorities for events. So, you can get really specific here. Join us this weekend at Baton Rouge Health Fair to learn how walkable communities keep kids active. So, you're letting people know this is happening this weekend, where it's happening, and what's going to be taking place. You're getting straight to the point. So, there's nothing wrong with that as well, because, you do have some people who could see it and decide, I'm going to go to this, I'm going to go and support. So you're giving them all the information that they need to make that decision to come out and engage with you. And then lastly, keep privacy and sensitivity in mind. In the language that you use. So an example of this, instead of targeting low-income neighborhoods, you can target families interested in healthy community events. So, just be mindful of the language that you use. You don't want to turn anyone off from your event before you've even had the chance to meet them. So that's something to keep in mind as well. We can go to the next slide. All right, so let's talk about some common mistakes to avoid. So when you are thinking about geo-targeting, you don't want to over target. It's okay to cast a net in a certain area, but you just don't want to get too specific and have your audience get too narrow. So an example of this would be if you're targeting only one city or one zip code, if the message is relevant to a broader audience or region. So now, if your message is just for that particular zip code or city, like how we used in that last example with Atlanta, that's fine. But, you don't want to cut out a whole group of people that could need the information that you were trying to get out because you weren't specific enough or too specific in the settings of your geo-targeting campaign that you're running on the back end. So for a lot of these, you can detail it as much as you want. You can even, as far as the demographics go, you can put in age ranges that you like to target as well for that location. But sometimes broader is better, but you just have to take it on a case by case situation, depending on what your overall mission is for your organization. Again, ignoring cultural or regional nuances, posting about early childhood programs in a primarily Spanish speaking community without translating content. That's a big one because, if you want to reach some people in a certain community, it might be worth running the ad in English and in Spanish. So, take that into account when you're thinking about who your audience is and how to go about targeting them the best way possible where they can understand the message. And then forgetting to update campaign location settings. And this one has gotten me before. And I was like, why isn't my ad performing the way it should? And come to find out when I got into the back end and looked at it, I was being lazy and I just went in and put um, started the ad to run, but I'm trying to run an ad for Texas and I still have my settings for Tennessee in there. So, don't waste your money. Make sure you do and go in on the back end of your settings to make sure when you're launching a new campaign that you go in and make sure you have the new information to match the new campaign. So that's a easy mistake to make, especially when you're starting off. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk about when not to use geotargeting. So, and again, this is kind of playing off the last slide. Broad awareness campaigns. So, when the goal is to reach a national audience with general information, but you are sharing a new early childhood policy brief report that applies to all states. So if this is for everybody, you can send it out, to the masses, and you might not want to think about spending your money or your resources on geo-targeting because this is something that can be for everyone versus a specific group of people in a certain location. Limited team capacity for segmentation. Geo-targeting requires extra time and resources for creating localized content. So if your team can barely manage the post that you are getting out now, having to create multiple versions of a post could be a little overwhelming. So you might just want to stick to a single and clear message. Or I would say if you know that there's a campaign that's coming and you have the time to plan it out where it wouldn't require, a whole lot of time to do that, that could be the perfect time to use geo-targeting. I know August is like National Breastfeeding Month. So certain campaigns that you have based around different times of year where it's coming each year, so you can have a chance to get your game plan in place since it's coming up. And you can work ahead. That way you don't exhaust your staff that you have. A lot of organizations don't have a full-time committed social media person, and it might be some people that share the responsibility. So that's something to keep in mind as well, your capacity. Universal messaging. So again, messages that are relevant to everyone, regardless of the location. It's good to use these. That way you don't have to worry about geotargeting per se. An example of this would be tips on infant nutrition or general early childhood development advice. This is something that you don't have to segment down to a certain audience because, kids are everywhere, infants are everywhere. So, unless it's something that's specific for your region or something that you're asking people to take advantage of that live in a certain area or zip code, you can keep it, very wide range and open, and generic. And then lastly, early message testing. Before you know which messages resonate, you might want to test, it broad versus by region. And we talked about this earlier, with social media, with Facebook and Instagram. They allow you to run two different campaign versions. And you can do this before you decide to put any money behind it per se, just to see, what your audience likes and what they engage with the most. You can say it a couple of different ways or with a couple of different images to go with it to see what takes off the best. And then once you figure that out, you can decide, like, okay, we might need to make this more localized for a certain state and run it again since it performs so well. So those are some things there to keep in your back pocket. All right, next slide, please. Right, so of course we are going to get some hands-on practice here before we go into Q&A. I am going to give everyone, we're moving pretty good today, so I'd say at least 5 or 6 minutes to work on this. Our exercise for today to get some hands-on practice. So the instructions are draft a short post for a local event, and I would love it if this is an event that your organization is hosting or has hosted. It doesn't have to be something that is happening in the future. It could be something that you just did or did earlier in the year, but you're going to write a general caption for it. I want you to localize it for your your specific state, or if it's for a certain county, even you can do that. I want you to decide on the creative, and that's just, I'm going to use a picture of this to go with it, because, or a video even. Extra points for video because video performs better on social media than still photos. But if you want to use a photo, that's fine too. And if you are going to use a photo or a video with our practice post here, just make sure you kind of tell us what's going on in the video or what's going on in the photo so we can imagine it with you and it can come to life. And then you need a call to action. So, even with this exercise that we're doing, as you are doing it in the real world in real time, if you want to, I don't know, pull your cell phone out, take a picture of this, because these are all attributes that you will need for creating a social media post or a post that you want to turn geotargeting on with. So you need a call to action. And by call to action, visit our website, sign this petition, show up to our event. You want to make the person have some action once they're done looking at your post. And then we're going to discuss, what makes it feel local. So it is 2:26 now. We'll take 5 minutes and let you work on this. And then after that, I typically call on 3 to 4 people, time permitting, so we can see what you came up with. So it could be some motivation for others, and inspiration for others on the things that we can do for social media and geotargeting. So take a moment and I'll let you do that. I don't know, Andre, if we have any music we can play for the moment. Get the minds going. All right, you got another minute and a half to finish wrap up, and then we'll take some from the audience. Okay. All right. So, is there anyone that wants to come off mute and tell us about the caption that they wrote and what they have planned for social media? Hey, okay, Sarah.
Our organization just last week participated in an early literacy event. So I kind of built off of that. And my caption is read as a family. And then join us in Linwood Neighborhood Center. Story times with local authors and illustrators, book giveaways, bookmark crafting. And then at the end, it says join families interested in more kids reading. So there are some
I
cute
love that.
pictures from the last one, but unfortunately they didn't feature any kids, just adults. So I would fix that and put families in the pictures.
I love that. Yeah, it's always great when you see kids reading. That's going to get people's attention because, the moms are going to look at it, and then, you just have a nice photo that is going to pique interest there. So, that was great. Thank you for sharing, and I love the call to action there. Is there anybody else that wants to come off mute and tell us what you came up with? And if I don't see your hand raised, feel free to just come off mute because it's quite a few of you here.
Um, my general caption was concerned about the lack of childcare in North Carolina is the question.
And
Um,
Courtney, tell us what organization you're with too,
I'm
really
with
quick.
MDC, which stands for Meaning, Dignity, and Community, and I work with home-based childcare providers to
Okay.
change policy, to change the system. Um, so the general caption is concerned about the lack of childcare in North Carolina. Come and have your voice heard at our Tri-County convening where you can speak directly to policymakers.
Okay. And is this? I'm just curious. Is this just for North Carolina or certain county or kind of statewide?
It's kind of statewide for North Carolina, but
Okay.
it involves families coming to talk about problem solving.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah, that's really good. And did you think about what type of creative you might put with it?
My creative is a family, and one of the parents, whether it's the male or the female, has a megaphone in their mouth
I
with
like
young
that.
children.
That is definitely a attention grabber. I love that. Okay, thank you for sharing, Courtney. Who else wants to go? Okay, Meryl?
Yep. Um, so the title would be Morning Without Childcare, and the
Hmm.
footage would be video from last year's rally with sort of a pan of the New Haven green and then zooming in on the speaker, basically saying, childcare is too expensive. it's hard to find, and early educators don't make enough, and then the um, sort of call to action is join us as we call for more funding for childcare on Wednesday, whatever, the day and time. Join us on the green. So it would show
Love that.
local footage and identifiable landmarks, and it would be targeted at people in New Haven, Connecticut.
I love that. And it's very specific about, when the meetup is and who it affects. So, and then I love the emotion that's attached to that as well, because, you're talking about childcare providers and educators not making enough money. So, that people can understand that. So I like that. And I like your choice of creative as well. Good job. Is there anybody else that'd like to go? We have a couple extra minutes. I'm loving hearing these and also the organizations that you're representing. Like I said, feel free to come off mute, and because we've had even more people to hop on the call now. So, anyone else want to tell
I
us?
oh, I can
Yeah,
go.
Renee. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm also driving right now, so I'm gonna do my best. I was just thinking about it. But we have an event coming up. So sorry, my name's Renee Meyer. I'm with First 3 Years, and I support the Houston Infant Toddler Coalition. And
Hmm.
the coalition is doing an event with one of our members, the Children's Museum, on September 17th. And I actually just finished recording some material today, so we're gonna have some video footage of like parents playing with their little ones. We also did like some interviews where parents talked about the Sticking Together campaign, which is a campaign we developed to celebrate parents, uplift them, recognize them for doing the talking, singing, reading, and playing in those simple everyday moments, and how important that is for child development. So our plan is to like put that on social media, like some of those interviews. And
Hmm.
I'm actually like trying to think as far as like our marketing strategy goes, and maybe y'all have ideas or suggestions. So Houston is very big. We have like 1 million people in the city of Houston, and I'm not sure whether,
Literally.
yeah, literally. So I'm just trying to think of whether it's better to target that local area around the museum versus like the entire city, because it can take like an hour for some people to just drive to the museum. And I want to make sure that it's like reaching those audiences where it's relevant. But at the same time, it's like, well, if someone wants to drive an hour to come to Sticking Together Day, I feel like they should. Um, but yeah, and I didn't really think of like specific captioning because that part I have to like write down and see, and can't do that while driving.
Right, right. Well, I think you've done great pulling this together while being in the car. One thing that I want to point out that you said that will get you a long way are testimonials. One of our highest performing social media pieces was a video that we did about the farm bill being passed and how not having healthy fruits and vegetables, access to healthy fruits and vegetables would affect parents and, providers, and just hearing them talk about it, and, putting again that sense of emotion behind them is, and having that push people to action. I love that you brought up doing testimonials as your creative. So that's something to think about for the people and partners who've been affected from your organizations. That might be something you might say, hey, we'd love to get a testimonial from you to use on our social media platform, because it can go a long way. And then another thing that you brought up was wanting to target people that are in a drivable distance from the museum, because you're wanting them to show up in person. That is the call to action. So you're not going to get someone that's going to drive 2 hours, or 2 hours from the museum to the event, probably in most cases. So thinking about, and like I said, with Meta, one of the cool things they have is as far as distance, you can put in an address and tell it to target people within a 15-mile radius, 20-mile radius, 30-mile radius from your event that you're planning. So that was really thoughtful there. And thank you for telling us about your caption and your idea. I think it is it Micaiah? Did I say that right?
Yes, it's
Micaiah?
Makaya. Yes.
Oh yeah, I said it right. Okay, yes, go ahead.
So, hi everyone. My name is Makaya Williams. I'm in Georgia, so I'm a communications coordinator for GEARS. It stands for Georgia Early Education Alliance for Ready Students. We're Georgia's leading advocacy and research organization for kids 0 through 5. So, we have a program called the Mayor Summer Reading Club, and it's exactly what it sounds like. We host readings across the city during the summer, and we also provide and write a book. So the readings are based upon the book for that summer. And I did my post on to try to recruit parents or caregivers or anybody who has children they want to get them out for like a fun, enriching event. So I'll go ahead and read my posts. So, are you looking for free enriching events this summer for you and your child to enjoy? Join us at the Alliance Theater for a reading of this year's Mayor Summer Reading Club book Dinosaur. Visit our website to sign up. For creative, I was thinking of videos of our past Mayor Summer Reading Club events. Our readings are very interactive and hands-on with the kids and the audience and the parents. So we have a lot of fun things going on. At our kickoff event, they actually were throwing meatballs. They're fake meatballs, but that sort of thing. I think that'd be nice to show the parents or the caregivers that, hey, like this is something that your kid and also you can enjoy as well. So photos from those events, or maybe like kids reading books, or maybe like a kid with the mayor. We have those photos, so that sort of thing.
That's awesome. I love that. A couple things again that stood out with your caption free, the word free, the word free, the word event, the word child, the word book. I mean, those are you hit, if somebody only sees, I think they say, now we have the attention span of goldfish when it comes to social media, but you get about 7 seconds to capture someone and their interest. So, out of everything that you just said, I caught those 4 words. And as a mom who has a son that loves Legos, our local library down the street from us, they did a free Lego night at the library, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to this because he likes Legos and it's free. So, you think about what affects you and your household, and it's books, and parents are trying to do things to encourage their children to continue to read during the summer, to keep those literacy rates up. So, you hit it there, and then the word dinosaur was also in there. What kid doesn't love dinosaurs? So, and then
It's a
the other
fun
thing that
book.
yeah, the other thing that I like that you also mentioned for your creative was using some um, some footage from your past events. And so let me say this, as you all are planning out your social media posts and your campaigns and different things, as you're having events, I know sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in the details of who's coming to speak, or what are we putting in the swag bags that we're giving out, or what type of pamphlets or information there are. But make sure you have someone there to actually capture who came to the event, and so you can use that for your creative on social, for future events, so people can see and have an idea. People are very visual, so they can see, like, okay, this was that's a nice library, or that's a nice museum, or it looks like they had a good crowd. This looks like a fun event. If it's a community fair that you're hosting, or a giveaway or something that you're doing, you definitely want to make sure that you're capturing that so you can have it to use for future events. So I love that. We're going to keep it moving. I see Kaylin has their hand up.
Hi, yes. My name's Kaylin Hayes. I'm with Think Tennessee, which is a nonpartisan public policy think tank based in Tennessee. We do like statewide policy in like all issue areas, but we're based in Nashville. And we are having our second annual policy forum in September. So we had an event last year for the first time, and it went really well. We sold a lot of tickets, more than expected. And this year we're a little behind on planning and aren't like on pace with where we were last year with ticket sales. So I think deploying advertising in this way will hopefully be a really helpful strategy. And so what I drafted for our September event is policy conversations that impact Tennesseans shouldn't just happen behind closed doors. Join us on September 9th at Nashville's Music City Center for a day full of evidence-based public policy discussions between Tennessee leaders about the most pressing issues facing our state. You deserve to be in the room. Register today. It might be a little long, and then I guess for visuals, we don't really have much video from the event last year, but we do have some B-roll of like the Tennessee down, like Nashville skyline, and things like that. Or we do have photos. So I was thinking maybe like a carousel of photos. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I like how, again, the word policy is out there in the forefront. And then I love how you included the word leaders because, people will come to the event knowing that this is a chance that I have to possibly have a one-on-one conversation, or if there's, versus like you can always write a letter or sign a petition or send an email, but to be able to have, a moment to still with, some of your local leaders, or to be able to, even if it's in some type of like open forum, to be able to get your issue out on the table, you're almost guaranteed to get a good turnout because you're letting them know this is a space and a time that you can come and do that. And I love the idea for as the creative goes, using a photo of the skyline. And then, of course, this year, just make sure you are able, to get some pictures of the leaders having these conversations, whether it be a sidebar or, someone standing up in the crowd asking a question. But about that as you put your plan together for upcoming social media posts, with the photography that you want to take, the pictures you want to take, the images that you want to capture, because you can use those in future posts or future ads, that you might decide to do geo-targeting with. So these are all great. Thank you for everyone that shared with us, and hopefully everyone was able to take something from the ideas that were shared. So before we move into question and answer, there is a survey that Andrea is going to drop in the Zoom window, your Zoom window. So, whenever you get a chance, if you fill that out, we'd love to know how you enjoyed this training today. And we have about 14 minutes left for Q&A. So, and then, we also have some resources that will be sent out as well if you have any other questions about geotargeting, or, how to implement it in your campaigns. So, yeah. Open the floor or the chat. If you're not able to come off mute and you wanted to put a question in the chat, now's a great time to do that. I'll try to pull up the chat window so I can see it here. I got like 14 things going on. Okay, here we go. All right. And if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, or if you want to come off mute, you're able to do that as well. And also, while we're doing that, Andrea, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat when our next training is and what it is, I really appreciate that. That way, if someone wants to know about what we have coming up next.
I have a question. My
Anybody
name is
have any? Yeah, Larissa.
my name is Clarissa Mobley, and I am with Kentucky Youth Advocates. We are a nonpartisan children's advocacy org in Kentucky. And this question is for anybody that works in that field, but maybe Kaylin, because you sounds like you guys do similar work to us. When promoting and trying to make the ads on Facebook, do you ever come across the ads being rejected because using the word policy or leadership or things like that? Because we have a lot of trouble with that when trying to announce our blueprint, which is our policy brief we put together. And we have an event just like you every year where we have partners from across the state and legislators come in to just talk, learn, discuss, to prepare for the legislative session. And our ads never get approved when promoting a policy event. So any tips would be appreciated. I know you
Kaylin, I
were,
don't know if you had,
I think she was driving too, so she might be in a.
okay.
Oh,
Has
sorry.
anybody else
Was
had
there?
experience with that? Oh,
I was just going to say, I actually haven't ran ads yet at this organization, and I don't think they have. So that's really good to know that might be an issue.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, we've had because we also have like a rally day at the Capitol. And so yeah, we get rejected a lot. So yeah, that's so yeah, good to watch out for. But yeah, if you that could be something on the horizon if you start to do ads around it. But I just wanted to check.
yeah, I do know sometimes, especially during campaign season, some of the ads get blocked because, they think that it is, for someone. I know that's an option in Meta. Are you trying to somebody running for office?
Mhm.
Or something like that if it thinks that it is a political ad. I
Yeah.
would love to, Clarissa, I'd love for you to send me a copy of it, maybe offline, so that way I can take a look at it because it could be something um, in the settings, where as far as like there could be something where you could use some alternative wording for like I know typically the words that get flagged for us are like legislation, lawmakers, government, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there could be a way that you can go in there and try to like bypass some of that, but just by changing your language and tweaking it some. So
Okay.
um, which brings me to we
Thank
do
you.
we do free social media office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays every week. So if my email address is in the chat. If you would send me a little more information about that, I'd love to look into that and try to help you work through that issue that you're having on the back end with Meta. So
Okay, yes, thank you. I would appreciate that. I will
yeah,
email that after my
it can
next
be
meeting.
a tricky space to navigate. All right. Someone else asked, where can we find a copy of the Zoomer slides? We typically send that out a few days after the presentation. We have everyone's email address, so you will get a follow-up email. But that's good because that means you enjoyed it and you want to have it. And like I said, the resources guide will be included with that as well. Um, and was there anyone else that had any other questions about selecting your audience on social or the platform that you're using or geo-targeting, anything of that nature? Because if not, that means I did a really good job presenting today. So, okay.
I would
All
be
right.
curious. I would be curious to know if there's specific platforms that you find more effective for in-person events. Like, is that more Facebook or Instagram? And I would also love to hear you talk about budgeting and kind of like, yeah, thinking through that. Those were my
Yeah.
general questions.
Yeah. So I feel like as far as the first question you asked, what repeat the first question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. The platforms that are more effective for in-person events.
Okay. Um, so I feel like as far as Facebook, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that because they do have where you can actually go in and put events in. They have like the events tab, and that in itself is a good way to get some free marketing without you having to pay for geotargeting yourself because Facebook will segment it based on the location that you live in and the information that you put into Facebook events. So Facebook would probably be my number one go-to for something like that. Another resource that I feel like is overlooked is, as far as even the local news stations and news outlets. I know people look at that as more of a traditional form of advertising and marketing, but they still do on their websites. A lot of them will have a space to put your event information, or they could even relay that on a newscast for you. So don't forget about that. And then, you know, I think as far as if your organization is on TikTok as well, you'd be surprised how many people go on TikTok and type in things to do in this area. And then, with giving the right hashtags and the location that you can use on TikTok as well, that's something that could show up in the search results as well. So, but for sure, Facebook. If you don't do anything else, Facebook will probably be the best platform for that. And then the other question you asked as far as budget. So someone put in the comment, I was told by a vendor that if I don't have a minimum budget of 50K for a specific local legislative window, it's not even worth considering. So, I think you kind of have to take that on a um depending on your geographical location. Like I think somebody mentioned that they were in Houston. Of course, it's going to cost more to run an ad in the Houston area than it would if you're talking about in Raleigh, North Carolina. So you have to think about that. You also have to think about how far your reach is going to go. I would say, you know, testing, like we talked about, having an A campaign and a B campaign, doing your due diligence up front and doing some testing can save you some dollars on the back end. Um, and I think it really just depends on what your budget is. I feel like typically I would say you need to have at least $300 per post or per ad to be able to play with on the low end for an organization that wants to do something locally to put behind a push for like geo targeting for a certain area. But it could go as high as upward $5,000, just depending on what your budget is, and what you want to use it on as far as that campaign. And so as you're building out your campaigns, though, and if your organization allows and allots it, if they have the financial means to allow you to put a line item for geo targeting, if that's something that you feel could help take your event or your campaign to the next level, think about that in advance. But I would say at least if you want to get the best bang for your buck on a promotional post with geo-targeting, you need to at least want to try to aim to spend $300 to see um, a some type of like difference there. Um, and someone also said in the chat, yes, local libraries have a place where you can submit events, and they'll share it on their calendars or their email list. And then it says also if Lantern, formerly Bright by Text, is active in your community, it's a great free resource that sends text messages directly to caregivers and can localize by county and zip code. And so, yes, thing I was to say, I'm sure there are a lot of free and local resources, and that's the one thing I love about these calls because people are able to drop those in the chat. So if you know of something, a local resource or email list or something like that the attendees on this call might be interested in, please feel free to drop it in the chat. And I just want to make sure we have time for one more question if anybody has anything. And if not, we can drop some items in the chat for the last 2 minutes that we have. But thank you so much for joining us today. I'm not sure if we were able to find our next, okay, yes, our next social media series. If you would like to join us, and this is going to be my favorite one, I feel like, is Frame It Right, Visual Choices That Speak Your Mission. And this is going to be September 24th. 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Central Time. So mark your calendars. And Andrea put that in the chat. So that way, if you want to go ahead and register, you can do that as well. Yeah, I think that we got everybody here that's in the chat. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. And like I mentioned before, please take the time to fill out the survey if you can, and you will receive a follow-up email that has the slides and also a copy of this presentation. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.